Big group poll, if you can raise your hands like we do in the playoffs. And just before we start, the big news, Gabe is not retiring. I would hope, Gabe, too, at your retirement press conference, you'd wear something a little better.
Yeah, I think I'd dress up a bit.
T-shirt and a hat, maybe a suit and tie, and probably in a bigger room than the media room at Family Sports. So.
Yeah.
All right, we'll open it up to questions. We're going to start with Pat Graham.
Dave, how you doing? Nice to see you. I guess, how close did you get, and do you think you're on track for maybe season opener next year?
How close did I get? I guess we'll never really know, right? Like, it's such a big difference from laying, like what I'm doing is essentially laying the foundation to skating, my new kind of skating technique, with a new piece of my knee, right? With laying the foundation and playing in an NHL playoff game is very different, and I'm sure you guys all witnessed it. I mean, mentally, I felt pretty close at times. I'm like, all right, well, I can do this. I can, I can go out there for a few shifts here and there, but I think the best decision was made to just for me to focus on what I was doing throughout the entire playoffs, as hard as it was and as much as I wanted to be out there. It was ultimately the best decision for my health, and I think long-term for this organization as well.
Eric.
A lot of the drills that we saw you doing and skating the last handful of months, you weren't obviously going at full speed or going at an NHL pace. Is that a matter of physically you just aren't able to do those movements yet, or is this a matter of doctors telling you to just ease it and slow it down?
I think it's more about earning the right to progress in what I'm doing. I think when you get in trouble, and when I have gotten in trouble throughout this process, is when I do something that I'm not necessarily ready for, or I haven't earned the right to progress in those movements. And I have a really good team of people around me, and we're just taking it step by step. I'd love to go faster. I'd love to go harder. I'd love to. There are days when I go out there and I'd love to try to go for a max sprint for a puck, but I know that's not going to be the best decision for my health. And you just, like I said, you got to earn the right to do those things. And there'll come a day when I get to do that. And but we got to do it step by step.
Ryan Bolden.
Can you just talk about, the frustration of being in the rehab process while watching the team compete in the playoffs, knowing what they're going through? Yeah,
I mean, it's just kind of a slow form of torture, I feel like. And it's win or lose, you want to be out there with the guys, right? Like, even after heartbreaking losses, you want to be in the room with the guys. You want to be around the guys. You want to be there to support them and just kind of go through all those things with them, whether it's ups or downs. But at the end of the day, I knew it wasn't necessarily my time, and I tried to support the guys the best I could, be around the team, which was probably equally as important for the guys as it was for me as well, and for my mental state, just to be around the guys and around the team. So hard, no doubt, but I just kind of kept telling myself that, there'll come a time when you're back in there and your time will come, type of thing.
Troy and then Colleen.
Gabe, at this point in your career, what drives you and makes you want to do this? You've accomplished everything. I know you're young in human years, but you've won rings, you've been a captain. What drives you at this point to still want to continue on this journey?
A lot of things. I mean, listen, the logo that I'm wearing, to represent that the best way I can. The fan base have always been very supportive for me and my journey, no matter the ups and the downs that we've gone through. The 25 guys in that locker room, guys that are pushing me and watching the guys grind through an 82-game season plus playoffs. I mean, it's inspiring in and of itself. You see the challenges they go through on a daily basis. I can relate that to the challenges I go through, the ups and the downs. But I think ultimately, my family, right? Like, I got 2 young kids. They're 3 and 4 now. They were 2.5 and 1.5 when, when we won the cup, and that was the last time they saw me play. My son is now 3, and last night he slept with his hockey jersey on, he slept with his stick, he slept with his gloves, and it just, like, he loves hockey, and whether that's to my fault or not, because he's exposed to a lot of it, and he comes to practice sometimes, he comes to the games, and my daughter's old enough, she's 4 now, 4.5, and she kind of knows. I've explained to her a handful of times that they sometimes ask why I'm not playing, why I'm not out there, and I say I go to work, but my son will question, well, you're not skating though, you're not playing, so are you really going to work? And I've explained to them that I just, I need to get stronger, I need to get healthy, and I think that's honestly one of the main motivations for me, is to ultimately be able to one day look back at all of this craziness that I went through for years, and you overcome it, and you get through it, and you come out on the other side, and you're better because of it, and you got a boatload of experience. And my wife's been through the ringer. She's dealing with me the last 2 years, and I haven't been pleasant to deal with some days, and it's a big challenge, but so she's been sort of that rock for me, and I just can't wait to be back out there, and then come give my family big hugs after the game. It'd be pretty special.
Colleen, then Jesse.
Nate and Cale talk about being the leadership group in the room, being leaders on and off the ice. How have you adjusted from the sidelines, being that leader for the rest of the team?
I think that's a good question, because it's still something I'm wrestling with and trying to figure out. It's a different dynamic, obviously, and I think at the end of the day, it's hard to sort of, you're going through mental gymnastics on your own to get your mind right, to just keep going, keep putting one foot in front of the other for your own health and for your own career's sake, and at the same time kind of be that sounding board for the guys, right? Like, you're sort of torn there between the two, but at the end of the day, you just try to kind of be there for the guys, support them in however they need to be supported, and when things are going well, they don't need me. And even when things go, like, there's so much leadership in that room, there's never really been a doubt for me. There's never really been a question of, do I need to talk to this guy? Do I need to do this? Do I need to check in with him? It's been pretty organic, and it's been really nice to be around the team since December. And especially now down the stretch, being on the road, and all of a sudden you just feel like you're more part of the team again. You're missing out on road trips, you're missing out on quite a bunch, but proud of the way the guys have battled all season long. I mean, come away with 107 points or something, and it's been a great season overall in terms of like a regular season. I think our segments have been pretty, if you break it into 10-game segments, have been pretty dominant at times. 7 2-on-1s a bunch of times, and then there's a couple of segments around 500 where guys just find ways to kind of get back on track, change a couple of things, make some adjustments, and get back on the winning side of things. And I'm never really surprised by what this group is doing. Led by obviously Nate and Cale, like you say, but also Mikko and Cogs and Taser. There's plenty of guys in there with obviously winning pedigrees, but guys that are just always driven to do better. So it's been fun to see from the sidelines.
Jesse, then Rod.
It's a two-part question, one for each of you guys. Gabe, I guess we're not trying to pin you down to a date in training camp, and that is next season a realistic target for you to return to the lineup. And then Chris is potentially having to account for his cap hit coming back. Are you happy to have that problem?
You asked about next season?
Mm-hmm.
Between, when's training camp?
Mid-September.
Mid-September and start of April. I feel pretty good about
it. Listen, we can't go and get a guy the caliber of player or the person that Gabe is. His injury has been challenging in a lot of ways, but not more challenging than what he's going through. He loves the game. He's a massive cog in what we're trying to do, and he's earned the right to have as much time as it takes to get back on the ice. So absolutely, it's a cap challenge. It's in a lot of ways, and we have another one as well. So we can't. It's reality. So we'll stay in touch with Gabe and continue to pull for him and see where he's at and glean more information. But definitely hopeful, and we're going to be 100% behind him, like you said, whether it's September, October, November, whenever that day is. We'll be super excited to see it. That's for sure.
Rod, then Evan.
Kind of following up on what Troy asked, because I wanted to ask about family, because when Brendan joked about you're not here to retire, I've seen the way your kids are watching the game and stuff, and I remember Joe and some other guys talking about one of the most special things is the fact that his kids got old enough to experience that stuff. Is that when you're at the toughest times in this, has that been the ultimate thing, that you want to make sure that they had that chance to experience Dad on the ice instead of just pictures?
Yeah. And I don't know where that comes from. Like I remember growing up, my dad used to play in the Swedish Elite League for a few years, and then he was in the second division. And growing up, when I found that out, I was pissed. I'm like, well, I didn't get to see any of that. You know what I mean? He retired probably 10 years before I was born, but I just always kind of had that in the back of my mind when I started, getting older and started thinking about having kids and whatnot. I wanted to have kids young enough where they could see this part of the stage in my life, right, in our lives, and be a part of it. And I'm really glad that I did, because it's incredibly special. That's definitely a big part of it. But also, you're teaching them so many lessons along the way, right? Like even when things are tough and things aren't going your way, you're still showing up, you're still doing the work. And there are plenty of days where I don't want to go to the rink, where I don't want to go to the gym or whatever, but you still do it, you show up. That's half the battle, and you take care of, you do what needs to be done, right? And they're way too young to learn those lessons now, but down the road they might, we might be able to talk about some of those things and just overcoming challenges, right? So not to get too deep on it, but yeah, it means a lot to me, and it's very inspiring to me.
Evan, then Kyle.
You joked about the return date next year, but over the last few months, have you hit certain benchmarks that give you confidence that it's going to happen next year, or there are certain benchmarks that you need to hit in the coming months that will make you even more confident?
I felt really good now for 2 straight months, physically, with no setbacks, minor or major. So that's a real positive, and I think without sharing too much, obviously it's a bumpy road, and I knew that coming into it, but I didn't realize how hard it was going to be, especially when you do hit those bumps, when you do get set back, and all of a sudden you're off the ice for a month when you think you're actually going to be ramping it up. And I think that's why I answered that question like I did, because there's no point in me setting a timeline or set even a benchmark for July 1st I want to go game speed, or August 1st I want to be able to do a bag skate, or whatever it might be, right? You're just setting yourself up to be disappointed and pissed off when it doesn't happen. Now, obviously, within what I'm planning on doing, there is a program and there are steps that need to be met, sort of thing. But they're fluid, and if things go well, then you follow this plan, and if they don't, then we'll tweak it and adjust as we go. But yeah.
Kyle and Eric.
Chris, as you examine this season, it felt like this roster, especially after the trade deadline in the first round, was in position to make a deep run. How do you examine the playoff exit and then just the year as a whole?
Certainly felt we had a team capable of winning, and as you guys all know, there's quite a few teams that go into the playoffs feeling they have a chance to win. We 3 straight 50-win seasons. Tremendous talent on our team, tremendous character. 2 tough opponents, both 100+ point teams. I think, Winnipeg was a challenging first round opponent, and then, Dallas, I think, had the 2nd most points in the league, and we're a goal away from getting it to a game 7. So ultimately, the guys were crushed because you realistically feel you have a chance, but it's hard and you need a lot of things to go right. But very, very proud of the group. They battle all year. They give it their all. They believed every single day that we were going to find a way, even when we fell behind. So continue to be proud and know we're going to be back.
Eric, then Troy.
Kind of one for each of you, but starting with Gabe, for the Val Nichushkin news, as a leader on this team, how do you take in and balance the personal and, more importantly, the business side of this for someone like him and what's unfolded the last couple of years? And I guess for you, Chris, when he's through, is how did the news kind of unfold for you, and how do you handle the business side of this moving forward?
You want to start, or you want?
Go ahead.
Well, the news came the morning of Game 4, the Monday, and you get a phone call and you see the number and you get a pit in your stomach, right? That was a tough one. Val is a massive piece of our on-ice puzzle. Our record with him and without him is obviously very telling. He's a super hockey player. I think there's two sides of the coin, right? There's the human side, and as somebody who's over the last 12 months has had 2 players go into the program, had to sort of try to get as educated as possible, and somebody who was not really familiar with addiction and the challenges of it, you feel for the person, right? This is a human being. He's a dad. He's a husband, right? And that's first and foremost. There's not a member of our organization that doesn't want Val to get stuff right in his own life so that he can be in a good place. That Monday was very disappointing. We got 25 guys, 30 guys, whatever it is, over the course of the season. That's a tough blow, and I felt for the group.
Yeah, and I think, from my perspective, just like Chris said, Val is a teammate of ours. He's a friend of ours. He's somebody that we've raised the cup with and had lots of good memories with and challenges you've gone through over the years with, right? But so you care for him and you want him to get help and you want him to get right. Now, what happens here moving forward, it's up to him how he's going to handle it. And, we obviously, we're pulling for him and hope everything goes well. But devastating to lose a guy like that going into Game 4 in a playoff matchup where, you know that the margin for error is so small. And, I'm sure in that Game 4, guys are pretty rattled about it and pretty hard to just kind of set aside and go and play as much as you want to be mentally strong and just go out there and win with whoever's in the lineup or whoever's out of it. It's obviously a big piece. So I think guys are rattled the group pretty good, and I think they responded really well with Game 5 and Game 6 as well. But felt, number one, I think the first thing that came to my mind is I just felt bad for the guys in the room. The guys that battle so hard and the guys that care so much, and this time of year, definitely difficult.
Troy?
Chris, you mentioned that you can have compassion for the individual, but you also have accountability for the player. Have you made a decision if he'll play for you again? I understand the suspension goes until November, but will that decision be made prior to that, or where does the decision come down on when would he ever play for this organization again?
What I can say to you is we've got to look at all options. At this time, priority one is for Val to get the help he needs, and assuming he does, and after the 6 months, we'll have to read and react on that. But it is very plausible that he will be back with the Avalanche.
Go Megan, then Mark Isla.
I was hoping you could give me some clarity on the timeline for Val. Since he entered stage 3, does that mean that January was stage 2? And does that mean that he was in violation of stage 1 at some point? And what is your understanding of the criteria he has to meet to be reinstated at a later date? And does the PA offer him protections with his contract while suspended?
All good questions, Megan. I think stage one was unfortunately last year, and then stage two was the when he left the team during the year, and stage three was obviously started that day that we got the phone call on game 4. As far as the 6 months clock, I would assume it starts that day, and the rest of that, the reinstatement stuff will go by what the league doctors and the program dictate.
Go Mark and then Jesse.
Just for Gabe, during the last 2 years, you've certainly been forced to look at what hockey means to you and your family in ways maybe you never anticipated. Are you a hockey lifer like Joe Sakic is? Where are you with that?
I mean, I love the game. Listen, it's what I've done since I was, 4 or 5 years old. Never really had a backup plan growing up. I mean, I had to pay attention in school. I had to do my homework, or else I wasn't allowed to go to practice. That was sort of the deal. But I think as you get older, you also start kind of wrestling with the identity of, like, who are you type of thing that everybody goes through. But so I've always said hockey is kind of what I do. It's not who I am. But having said that, I love it. I love every part of it, and clearly it means a lot to me. I'm here, and the season ended 14 days ago, 10 days ago, whatever, and it's, with an injury, all of a sudden you're kind of consumed by it. But I think I've gotten better and better over this course of time, over the last couple of years, is to distinguish between, what's important, what's not important, right? And it's really important to me, like we talked about earlier today, about why it's important and what my motivations are and what inspires me. But I get so much time with my family and my kids and get to be a part of their lives. When the guys go on the road for a week, I stay home. We get lots of quality time to do fun things and whatever. So you realize that it's not everything, to be there for them and to see them grow up. It's, that's important to me, and that's been a lot of fun.
Can you see yourself being in this game at age 55?
Yeah, most definitely. I can also see myself doing other things, but we'll see.
We'll do Jesse, then Corey.
Chris, so you mentioned earlier that there is uncertainty with Val and with contracts. I guess, one, is there anything that you guys can do this summer to try to get some clarity on that? And two, you just laid out 3 incidents in 13 months. How hard is it for that trust to be built back up?
I think it's hard. I think it's all, Gabe highlighted it earlier, it's going to be up to the individual. The challenges for us are obvious, right? He's a really good hockey player. He's got a significant cap hit, and look, we've looked at all options like we always do, and the obvious question is termination, right? And at this time, that's not an option. So the best thing I can say is we're pulling for Val to do what he needs to do to take care of himself. This guy's a heck of a hockey player, but it's a privilege to play in this league. And when you sign on that contract, there's things that have to be adhered to, and hopefully Val takes the next 6 months to get himself right, and we'll stay in touch with the league, but again, at this time, that's the way we're operating, and yes, it's a significant challenge in terms of off-season planning, but there's a lot of teams with cap challenges. We're certainly one of them, but we won't shy away from looking at different ways to build as good a hockey team around it, what is still a very special group.
Corey, then Colleen.
Chris, whenever teams go out earlier than they expect, there's like a lot of discourse about what the team needs to get better. But I think all your guys were pretty confident that you had a team that could win the cup. So was there anything out of the Dallas series that you feel like you need for next year, or?
Yeah, you always want to get better. I mean, obviously, you know, if we could crystal ball it, and the best thing we can do is to get this guy healthy, right? I mean, he touches every part of our game, you know, and I think that was also part for us in losing Val in Game 4, and then, you know, unfortunately, Taze gets sick that same day. That's a challenge, right? This is second round of the playoffs, and you need your top guys to be your top guys, and like Gabe said, and you need good health, and you need things to go right, a puck bounce. It's hard, and when you lose, you know, guys that are big bodies that touch every part of your game, that's a challenge. And losing Val the way we did was a challenge. I think he was leading, you know, the playoffs in goals, and you know, so we'll have to, you know, look at everything, and the coaches will do, you know, their reviews and stuff. But you know, I think, you know, our biggest thing over the next few weeks will be cap and analyzing how we can get better, not just next year, but in looking what it looks like over the next 2-3 years as part of our equation.
Go ahead, Corey.
Just, is it fair to say then that, like, given the uncertainty with Gabe and given the uncertainty with Val, that, like, just getting back to where you were the morning of Game 4 before the Val news, like, that could be a challenge this offseason?
Yeah. The salary cap is a significant challenge for us, and we've got things we're going to have to navigate. No different than years past. Obviously, the Val wrench is something that you're not counting on, right? Like, injuries happen, and every team deals with that. We have another one, and does that impact things that potentially you want to try and do over the next few weeks? Very well may, but that's our job, is to try and find workaround solutions or workable solutions. But I mean, we still have, you know, Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar and Mikko Rantanen and Devon Taves, and you know, that's a pretty good launch point for any season.
Colleen, then Raj.
Kind of on that note, you guys have obviously your hands full with a lot of UFAs in the offseason. How much do you involve your elite players, your leaders in the room, with those decisions?
I've always said that, you know, we've got guys that are dialed in. We've got tremendous accountability. It would be crazy for us not to tap into that, whether it's asking about things that they feel we can do better on and off the ice. So yeah, we tap on guys, and certainly this guy being a part of that. But when it comes to whether it's a UFA decision or things like that, I don't feel that's. These guys they're in the battle together, you know, and they're from September on, and for many of them for years at a time, right? And it would be unfair of them to necessarily put them in that spot. So I think, you know, Joe and myself and our staff have to make some tough decisions at times, but in terms of leaning on them or having a chit chat or a coffee or in the morning, I think it's something we routinely do on a lot of things Avs hockey related.
Raj, then Arn.
One for each of you guys. Gabe, did you have an active role in helping the team through the Val situation? And if so, could you detail it? If not, what players kind of stepped up with your absence in that room? And then for Chris, to piggyback on the UFA situation, 10 free agents, and you've got Mikko coming up after next season. Do you anticipate having to possibly move money out the door to fill out the roster for this year and next year?
As far as like an active role in dealing with it, I don't know if there was one to be had, really. Like, I found out the news right after morning skate that morning. A lot of the guys were gone already, and then, you know, I think Bedsy spoke to the group right before the game, and I'm sure the word had spread at that point. So there wasn't really much to do. I know the guys in that room, I know exactly what they probably did, is they just said, all right, well, he's not in the lineup, just like Taser wasn't in the lineup. Obviously very different circumstances, but you can't really go into the game sulking about who's in or who's out. You just go out and play and do your best in trying to win a hockey game, and I know that's what the guys did.
Raj, yeah, like anything like that, our next few weeks, like next week, we have our pro scouts coming in, and then, part of what I'll have to try and ascertain is the needs and what other teams are thinking. We have the combine after that, and then leading into the draft. So in terms of off-season planning, it'll be analyzing free agency, analyzing potential, what other teams are looking to do. Is there a fit? Is there not a fit? In terms of specifically looking to move money out, at this time, I think we're way early in that process. As we stand today, what I do know is we will need, plenty of what we call lower AAV types to fill out the roster with the information we have today, and as things stand. With Gabe's situation, with Val's situation at this time. So, but just like every other off season, the next few weeks, there's going to be something that may fall into our lap that we were not even thinking or weren't even expecting. So, it should be fun, but it's an important information gathering time for us to do our due diligence internally and with the coaches and with our scouts, and then to see what opportunities may or may not be there with other teams.
And then Rob.
Gabe, trust is really the fabric of a locker room. Chris said it's plausible that Val returns as captain. How might that look as we look ahead?
I don't know. I like Chris said, like it's kind of up to Val now how he handles this, and obviously once he comes back, and hoping that everything goes well, and he's ready to be a part of this team, we obviously will be ready to have him back and be ready to battle out there on the ice, but yeah, we hope Val gets right. We hope he gets what he needs and is able to come back and help us.
At media day at training, just before training camp, Nathan McKinnon said the team would welcome him back with open arms. Is that how you view it?
We will see how Val handles this situation and how the next 6 months go.
Rod?
Outside, people are like, how can they trust him again? It's happened twice in the playoffs, but we don't know the mentality inside the locker room. Is there anything you guys will do to, you don't say the word babysit, but obviously it's an addiction. Is there anything else you guys can do inside to help?
I'm sure, I think it's a tough question to answer, right? Like there's a fine line of what I want to say and what I want to share and what not want to share, but immediately when the news broke, I think my reaction was, what else could I have done? What else can you do? How else could we have handled the situation differently leading up to this point, whatnot. But, ultimately this is what happened, and we just kind of have to deal with the consequences now. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who feel differently about, everybody has their own opinions of the situation, right? But, like I said, he's a teammate of ours. We hope he gets right. We hope he gets what he needs and is able to come back and help us moving forward. Ultimately, he's a human being and a teammate of ours, and we look after one another, and that goes both ways. He needs to look out for himself, but he also needs to be a part of what we're trying to accomplish here, and I think that's important as well.
Ryan, then Corey.
Chris, post-game, Jared Bednar said Casey Middlestat was dealing with a hip injury from that game. Can you elaborate on that, where he's at with that now, and just any other injuries that guys had or repairs that are upcoming?
Yeah, I mean, aside from the bumps and the bruises, I think, our Turi Lekkinen is going to get a shoulder procedure here in the next week. Casey got hurt that game early, and he battled through, but I don't think it's anything that's going to be, a long-term or surgical situations. So, and we had a bunch of other guys, obviously, with some significant bumps and bruises. But as far as I can tell, that stuff should heal up and have them ready to go for September.
Corey?
Is Arturi Lehkonen going to be ready for training camp? I guess I should start with it.
It's going to be close.
Close?
Yeah, going to be close.
You mentioned like needing lower AAV guys to fill out the roster. How often do you anticipate saying the names Evan Rodriguez and Jonathan Drouin to agents this offseason? And I guess also as part of that too, just those four guys you mentioned as the core, like that seems like it's a pretty good recruiting pitch too.
Yeah, I think our group, it's an attractive place to play for a variety of reasons. I think Denver's a great city. We've got an incredible fan base. I think what Gabe and Nate and Kale and Mikko and our group over the last number of years have been able to do, they've set an incredible standard, and it's I think it's a great place to play, and I think players around the league recognize that. In terms of the Evan Rodriguez and Drouin you mentioned, Evan signed for $2 million, so I don't that's not quite in the realm for us at this point in time. I get your point on sort of the lower AAV guy that might be looking at a place to find success. And I think our situation has proven to be a boon for that type of scenario. But there's a lot that has to go into it. Like, it's got to be the right player and the right fit, and in the situation, right? And UFA, you just don't go. We don't go into it with a player that had 60 points last year and go, hey, I wonder if he'll take 800 on July 1 to play with Gabe, right? Like, that's not going to happen. There's things have to align, and obviously there's only so many cap dollars on July 1 available in the entire league, and there's only so many free agents and available 23-man roster spots. So you do that analysis, and sometimes player or two or three might get squeezed, and then you go, is it time to strike? And how do you stack up against the other teams that are also looking at that? So, that'll be the challenges for us over the next, hopefully, X number of years. It's just reality for the cycle that we're in, and with another challenge onto the plate this summer that we are going to have to deal with.
Take a few more. Megan, then Evan.
Gabe, with so many new faces in the room this last season, two of which come to mind, Miles Wood and Ross Colton, guys who will be here for a little bit, what does it look like for you getting to know some of those new players and staying connected with the group like that?
Yeah, I think this is. That was one of the challenges for me this season, right? Or at least the first half, I wasn't even around. I'd come in and out and try to get to know guys, and but that's the challenge every year. Is just how do you do your thing, and especially now, last 2 years, I rehab, try to get right physically, and at the same time be there for the guys and get to know them. Like, I think, just for you guys to understand, a lot of the bonding that you see and a lot of what happens when a team starts gelling, A, comes from winning hockey games, B, comes from traveling, comes from practice on the ice. Like, those are all things that, and if I'm around, I come into meetings or I go eat breakfast with the guys or whatever, right? Sometimes it can feel a little bit forced, and you're kind of forced out of your comfort zone that way, and when you're a part every day of the team and you're in practice, you're on the road, you're doing all these things, right? Winning hockey games, it just comes very organically that way. So this was a little bit different to get to know new guys. But listen, I think they're all quality people that we brought in this locker room, and just takes more time because I've been away so much, right? And I've missed a lot, but I love the guys in that locker room, the new guys. They're all quality people, and I really enjoyed having Zach Parise around, and I think he brought a lot to our locker room and on the ice, obviously, too. So it's a fun group to be a part of, and just excited for the day when you're no longer when you're no longer really on the sidelines, when you can be a part of all of it, right? That's where I'm the most comfortable. So, yeah.
Evan, Eric.
Talking about lower AAVs, Dallas had a lot of young players that were contributing on entry-level deals. Do you see Kovalenko's, Foodies, Malinsky's guys that can fill roles and help out next year? And if Cal Ritchie has a big summer and comes into camp, is he an option potentially?
All of the above, right? But they have to get it done on the ice. Like, we don't. We'll look at PTOs, we'll look at waivers, we'll look at free agents. But I think we're at the point where jobs aren't given; they have to be earned. It doesn't matter draft status, free agent, how we get guys. We just want guys that are going to help us win. So. The names you mentioned, certainly Sam Malinsky, Foods, Kovalenko, we all think they should be excited, right? They should be dialed in to have great off seasons and to come in and kick a door down to make sure that the coaches and Joe and myself, they're NHL players. We believe there's ability there to do that. But they have to earn it. Hopefully we'll get Callum Ritchie signed here in the near future. He had an awesome year. After a challenging year the year before, I think, he put up a lot of points and had a really good playoff. He's a young kid that has to, get man strong and then come into his first NHL training camp and, we'll see what he can do. He's 19. I think for us, the exciting part about that is when you've got Nathan, and now we've added Casey Middlestat. I think Callum Ritchie, we can wait until he's ready to thrive, and he can come in a role where he doesn't have to be, a counted on point producing guy from a young age, which I think. Can be a challenge, right? He can come in and grab a role and grow at a pace that allows him to thrive in the league and not just survive. So I'm excited about our middle of the ice and the age of it, to be honest. So, but training camp, that's what training camp's for, and we'll see. But guys have to kick a door down and earn the right to make the team.
Eric, Kyle, we'll finish with Troy.
Chris, a couple things on the UFAs, just opposite of Evan's question. You have a couple of veterans in Cogliano, even more so in Jack Johnson, who really expressed interest last week in wanting to come back. Where do you stand with those guys, and do you still see a fit for them in this room and on the ice? And the other part of the UFA question is, none of these guys played a bigger role from you, all the UFAs, than Jonathan Drouin. Do you see a scenario, and how confident are you in that scenario to lock him up?
Good questions. Well, like I said, we're early in the process of reviewing those guys, those files. We'll get with Bedsy, and after our pro meetings next week, had good meetings with Cogs and Jack. As older guys in the league, they've been on under 1 million type AAVs the last few years. Certainly think both can still play in the league. They had good years for us, and as we said to them, for those guys, we can talk to them until June 30th. I think we'll get through our initial meetings internally and then make decisions on that. On Drouin, that's a different animal, right? He came in and took 800 or 825 or whatever it was. To sort of reestablish himself and show the type of player that he can be, the hands and the skill, which we were the beneficiaries of this year, in large part to his credit. He took advantage of the situation and had an incredible year. And again, at this time, I'd be lying to you if I said it would be a challenge. It won't be a challenge to get something done there at this time. We've got the cushion to deal with. You get 10%, over the cap. But the uncertainty of certain situations, we've got a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross and things to figure out on that over the next few weeks. But Joe is certainly a guy that that a lot of teams would love to have. Last year's Jonathan Drouin. He's young, he's skilled, he was dialed in and took advantage of the opportunity that was presented to himself. So, happy for him, and we'll definitely stay in touch with him over the next few weeks.
Question for both of you. How special was Nathan MacKinnon's season this year, and is he the MVP in your mind?
He is in mine.
Yeah.
Sorry. Nate's a unicorn, and I've always said to Nate, if Nate wants to win the Selke, he can do it. There's not a thing on the ice he can't do, and obviously the points and all that. He's number one franchise center. There's not many of those guys, and he had an incredible season, and it's an honor to get to watch him and our team do what they do. But Nate had an awesome year.
Yeah, no doubt. In my opinion, it's his third MVP, but I'm keeping my tally at home. But yeah, so no matter if he wins it or not, whether he wins the Hart, the Lindsay, or both, or none of them, it doesn't change our perception of who he is or what he's done. And I'm sure the Avs fans and you guys feel similar, right? Like you guys get to see, and we all are blessed to get to see him, playing on a nightly basis, and I don't think anybody should be taking it for granted. So he's just when you think you've seen it all, he pulls something else out of the bag and shows us something else, and it's been fun to watch.
Okay, finish with Troy.
Gabe, you talked about adversity. I don't think anyone would put their hand up for what you've had to go through. Is there motivation to do something somebody's never done before in terms of coming back from the surgery? And have you stayed in communication at all with Lonzo Ball about this, the other athlete trying to come back from this type of surgery?
Yeah, to answer the first part of your question, I think it was something I thought about maybe more frequently, like right after surgery, when you're non-weight bearing and you're in pain and you're trying to figure out how to walk stairs and those sort of things, and it was so fresh, and then you realize this is going to be a long road, and then once you get back to kind of everyday life, you fill your days with sort of these micro goals of what you want to do, and these smaller things what you want to accomplish, and you get busy, because when you don't stay busy or get busy, then your mind can go to crazy places, whether that's good things or bad things. But at the end of the day, we're 12 and a half months into this. I think I said about a year ago before the surgery, I think everything that I've been told is 12 to 18 months type of thing, right? So we knew that the playoffs was a very optimistic thing, and I think I've sort of let go kind of being the first to do this, a little bit for myself as well, because it takes some pressure off of me, and I just want to get healthy, get back to playing hockey, get back to being with my teammates and playing in front of our amazing fans, and whether I'm the first or somebody else has done it before, it doesn't really matter. I just more so important to me to to take every step as it's supposed to be, and make adjustments along the way, and be able to skate without pain. So yeah.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Jim.